Okay, so not even last year, last decade, before the pandemic, like, what is that now? 2 years ago? 3? Fuck me. Before the pandemic, before all of the quarantine and the plague and the world-changing stuff started, we ordered tickets because My Chemical Romance, which is a band that I really appreciate in more ways than just for their music, but for their moral core messages and the fact that their songs made me feel seen and not alone in moments where we otherwise felt very much so. And knowing that, like, the things we think of and face are things that other people do, and that people are out there that dedicate their time to doing something that helps comfort people in those positions. Just everything about it, very wholesome. Very much approve of. And they are sadly disjointed now, but they at one stage wanted to do like a reunion tour. I think this is where we get to in 2019, I think. They advertised it and we bought tickets. There we go. ADHD in context, so much fun. Which loop will my roller coaster brain take us through to get like the ride all encompassed today? I like it. But then pandemic, so no outings for a while. I had completely forgotten that we had bought the tickets, and when we bought them at the time, we did not know about the dissociative disorders and we knew that we had PTSD. We didn't know we had complex trauma. We didn't know we were a system. Or we were just finding out. I think it was like a month or two before working all of that out. We only knew about our physical health issues and some mental health issues, and we were planning to get a lift there, get dropped off there, and get picked up again, and hopefully go with somebody so that we didn't have any of the risks to travelling and getting ourselves there that would otherwise be present and have developed now, because dissociation kind of happens more often these days. So we got an email the other day saying that, oh yay, it said the doors will open at 4, not 5, and I was like, what doors, what the fuck? And then it was like, oh hey, yeah, this event that you booked back when the world was sort of shiny and new in a completely different, unplague saddled place, and you didn't know about half of your trauma responses. This is happening now, and oh, good dog, did you spin? You're a good boy, you're so clever. I freaked the fuck out. I just like nearly panic attack, lots of anxiety, lots of oh god, but what, but when, but what do we do? And he sort of reassured me and calmed me down and was like, what is the concern? And I was just like, oh. Broadly summarised, I am both terrified of the governing bodies that supply our support not understanding the presentation of trauma and like trauma-born and fluctuating symptoms, and I am terrified of the trauma-born and fluctuating symptoms. I'm like simultaneously scared that we don't look sick enough and that I'm too sick to actually be able to manage getting there and doing it. I was going back and forth between the two, but it's like one doesn't cancel out the other, so I'm not like, every time I get terrified of the symptoms, it's not helping the other part of my brain go, hey, but that proves. It's just like both at once. I'm hoping that eventually I'll be able to, like, I'm gonna work out what reassurances I need to hear, like how to encourage myself to change. There's some core beliefs here or something going on. It's very, it's exhausting, and it kind of almost makes me go into shutdown because it feels like incomprehensible, insurmountable. It feels like there's too much happening all at once, and like nothing can be okay about it. So fucking stressful. And this is like me having booked something that means a lot to me, that I allegedly would be me having a good time, that is like a leisurely activity that, no, if like, I managed to get there and stuff, it will manage to get there. Oh, you're on travelling. Yeah, booking tickets doesn't give me anxiety. But either way, it's like, I'm really grateful for that. For now, it's just like, damn, it will be work and trauma processing and like everything. Learning to have leisurely activities is kind of just work at the minute. So it will be one of those, but I'm grateful, and I'm grateful because starting to get some benefits to that, and some things are getting a little bit easier. So that's not like, it's not fruitless. It's very hard work and it's very worth it. I'm still in the freaking the fuck out about it stage. Discipline. Yeah, kick it down. Ooh, we're done. You did a good down. I'll throw it to you in a minute. My first concern is it's quite far. It's like a 2-hour train journey. We don't travel. We don't do trains. We don't do like. Well, for one thing, It will involve being in a hypervigilant, altered state. It will involve potentially dissociating. That makes me afraid that it will involve dissociating to the point where we miss our stop and get horribly lost. Like, if somebody that's younger that doesn't know what's going on switches out, and like normally one of us can remain co-con with them, but you know, in a very different situation, and one that we're not at all familiar with, it always worries me. I always think, like, what the fuck happens if there's no one there with me, so, like, outside of our system. So that's stressful as shit. Whether or not we will get triggered while outside the house, and I mean, that's fairly likely as well, because we've got so many triggers. Hearing a certain place name, or seeing someone that has certain like physical attributes, or like hearing certain music, you know, a lot of things are going to be triggering. So it's like expecting to, and now that we are much more aware of triggers and much more impacted by the symptoms of trauma, it's good, and everything feels more intense, and there's like this whole being able to connect to the emotional and physical body. So there's elements to it that we have not experienced yet. We haven't gone and travelled, we haven't been anywhere. The pub the other day was like the closest thing to going somewhere and doing a thing that we've really done since starting to feel things on so many deeper and more intense levels. So this is all very unknown and new and unpredictable and unexplored territory, and I'm kind of scared. I'm quite scared. And I know we're capable, and that's just what I'm going to keep telling myself, just capable of dealing with anything, no matter how something goes, or if it does go wrong, or if we do dissociate, like we'd fix the situation, we wouldn't get into any danger. The worst that happens is we like maybe get lost and get like freak out and miss the event, which would be distressing, but we'll keep each other safe. So I'm just keeping that in mind, and it's kind of like a catch-22, because it's like if I can keep really chill and really calm and grounded and present, then we can stay relatively stable and be okay. But it's like the pressure, because your brain's basically going, hey, you gotta do this or else it could be really, really distressing. So it's like, keep calm or else does not have calming vibes or energy to it. Now, also, being triggered and symptoms of trauma. Down, yeah, flat, yeah, keep calm. Good, work it, girl. Well done. Jessie, can you go flat? Oh, well done, catch. So, like, then our physical health is impacted by our triggers, very much so, and I have to rest and pace myself at the best of times. That kind of an expenditure of travel, just the trip there and I'll be exhausted. So I'm already going to be like having to lean against things or having to sit down a lot. I'm aware that the body will have to rest as much as is possible during the entire... I'll be sitting on a train, so I'm hoping that I'll be able to keep myself as relaxed as I can. And then, like, the more things that potentially trigger us, the fucking cortisol injections through my fucking veins, that will wipe us out. So there's, like, it's kind of guaranteed that by the time I get there, I will be exhausted. And will that make it more likely that I will switch, or somebody else will have to travel us there, and then I will switch out? But either way, the body will be exhausted. So I'm worried about how much our physical health issues will impact us, and whether or not we'll be in pain, and whether or not that would be triggering and make us more dissociative. I'm worried about what sort of a state of awareness we'll be in, and like how floaty and how able to follow my phone beeping at me with maps and decision making, and all of that scares the shit out of me. And then, so that's like part one, all of that. And then part two is the benefits people that you get in the UK. There are some fucking horror stories and like experiences that people have had with them that show that they really don't tend to understand. Like a lot of people that work there do not understand disabilities, do not understand trauma, do not understand the impact of fluctuating illnesses. Like if you have to use an aid for walking, they can give people trouble for only having to sometimes use a wheelchair or only having to sometimes use a cane, and go, oh, but you walked for that bit, so therefore like you're lying about your condition and you can walk everywhere. And it's like, well, no, actually, fuck, you know, you can have intermittent illnesses and disabilities and issues that you need an aid with, but you can still sometimes walk with. And you know, the nuance of how these things work is not something that they are proved to be very knowledgeable about, and that gets people into trouble. So this is why I'm always scared there. So I'm scared that if I try really, really hard to stay present and grounded, and I put all the therapy skills and tactics into play that we've been learning, and we manage to keep the system stable, and we manage to work together to compensate for the vast array of symptoms that could very well will be affecting us, whether or not it impacts us to the point of like, you know, what point it impacts us to, I won't know until we're there. But if we manage to compensate well enough to deal with that and keep ourselves regulated and grounded, even though we're going to have to rest for like a week before we go, and I don't know how long after, usually like a couple of weeks of being very, very much having to recover, and we'll be exhausted, and I'm expecting there will have to be like days of sleep and rest and doing nothing, because all of these symptoms are not seen or understood. I am worried that the people that run the benefits will just look at us and go, ah, you got to a concert, like never mind the internal experience and like the sort of having to regulate our nervous system the whole way there and back, and the recuperation time it will take before and after, and the planning and the compensative measures, and like the apps, phone maps, and like the plans that we will have to set up and execute perfectly in order to not dissociate or get triggered, to find our way there, to have the experience and get back. And I don't know how getting back, oh, that freaks me out, because I don't know what time it will be, and so I may have to try and organise a lift at a ridiculous time, which will be really stressful. I hate asking people for things, but I don't see how else we'd do it. And yeah, so I'm worried that they'll only see the fact that we managed to get there, and none of the surrounding, what it took, what it cost us, how not reliable and repeated it is of an experience, like how much effort and how much therapy and how much like grounding and mindfulness and maintenance it will take us to achieve, if we achieve it. And we'll therefore be like, aha, you got to this concert this one time, you can therefore get to work every single day and cut off our money, and then we just would be fucked. I don't actually know what the likelihood of them doing this is. I just know that they've done it to other people for being like, aha, you did this thing one time, so you must be able to do it all the time, without being aware of like the fact that if you can do something one time, it does not mean you can do it reliably or repeatedly with any physical or mental health issue, really. It's like way more training needed. So I am both simultaneously really scared of the symptoms of our disorders and of not looking symptomatic enough with our disorders. And I still have anxiety like in my chest and throat and stomach as I talk about it. I'm very jittery right now, and I'm like, wow, because it's like I don't know what we do. We don't have backup. We wouldn't be homeless and on the streets now, and that makes me very fucking grateful. So fucking grateful that I can at least take it out of like their basic, hey, at least the dogs can hunt birds levels, which is what I would have been formerly thinking. So, but what the fuck we do about it, I don't know, because the stress impacting us alone would make it difficult to actually not go into a catatonic state and deal with it. And then it's triggering to think like this is like the third and final part, because like feeling like you have to prove that you're disabled enough, or like, you know, that whole concept of having to prove that something is bad enough while we fight our entire fucking lives to get through every day and make things as bearable and as manageable as we can. So we're trying to like do both, like we're trying to make it look as manageable and as okay and as doable as we can, but that can make people misunderstand us. That's very triggering and very like stressful, just thinking along the lines of people want us to prove that we're ill enough while we're trying to live as if we're like as healthy as we can be to try to keep healing. So it's like, as this man, that mix is intense and kind of sickening. And then I get really angry at the world for being like this, and I'm like, fuck, I want people to have more training. Oh, good girl, good boy, Jess. Oh, that helped a bit, actually. And then little things like, I know you wanted to get us there early enough to grab something to eat. I'm still thinking, how the fuck are we going to eat? I guess you can eat in the fight response, but yeah, I was not thinking it would be that leisurely. I was just thinking, we will need food in the body for something like this, because last time I managed something like this, I was too I was too out of it to eat, and then when I got back, I nearly passed out. Just about got through the door, and that was nearly me out cold. And if that had happened while travelling, not good. So I'm literally just thinking, I'll eat something. I can now. At least at this stage, getting food into the body is not impossible for me. And then I'm pissed off because I'm like, I don't want to be so stressed about something that's like, I want it to be a nice event. I want it to be fun. I want to be able to have fun. That it just reminds me again, it makes me like really notice the symptoms of all of the trauma, because it's so hard to be able to hold all of those very valid and reasonable concerns and work through them and deal with them and let them go enough to actually try to be present and enjoy the experience while still attending to the very reasonable fears. Man, it's so much. It is a hell of a lot. This is why we don't go out and do normal people things with the CPTSD symptoms. They're kind of actually almost, you could say, impact every area of our lives every day. Harder. I imagine, for you to accept in me. It's seeing that, it's trying to mix the worlds. Now I've been in this one of focusing on us and realising how bad our symptoms are and treating the trauma and processing for like 2 years after a lifetime of just being like, hey, I'm hyperfunctional, while our internal experience was hell and we were so fucking ill. We burnt out to the point of being bedbound, so, you know, like, just pushing us until we crumbled because I was so disconnected from how many symptoms we were actually experiencing, is when I would do things like go to concerts, which I have done all of 2 times because that is how possible it was. And I have not looked back since starting to recognise how ill we are, and I have just devoted every second to our healing. So most of my work at the minute is being honest with myself and with other people about my limitations, which are far more strict than I would like them to be. And it's really hard to accept that. So I haven't mixed the 2 worlds yet, and this would be the first. The pub was a bit like that, but this is the first, like, really serious hey, look at the comparison of like this normal person activity that other people around you can do, and look what it takes for you to attempt to do it. And it's like, it shows me the level we're at, and I'm like, it's fucking grim, man. That's fucking haunting. It's hard being authentic and honest, and like accepting what we're really capable of. And I mean that in every way, because, like, you know, the external things that we will accomplish, like traveling on a train and maybe managing to have food in the body and managing to be there and then come back, and like all of those things, it's just the amount of like underground labyrinth like tunnels we have to dig and structurally support and mine out, and like all of the internal work that we have to achieve to do what looks relatively simple on the outside is so much. It doesn't surprise me at all that we don't have that much energy left over to do things like the external look of the experience, because the internal one is all we're doing all the time anyway, and doing that while doing something outside that will involve so many sort of bits of triggers and stimuli in the environment to invoke us to need to ground and soothe and apply tactics like in real time faster than we've yet had to apply them. It's really hard to acknowledge all of that. Yeah. It really hits a lot of bars of the I'm doing something wrong no matter what I do. So if I get past that, then what I see is it's just really hard no matter what I do. And there's kind of no escaping that reality, and that's just fucking heartbreaking. Even if I do, like, us doing the best we can is so almost impossible and takes so much from us. And the external impact of that is it will look like we can do something that every normal person around us can one time. Ah, fuck yeah. Oh, that one bites. Yeah, like you're talking serious loss and grief, love. Yes, it bites. That's the appropriate response. Did you just run into the fucking slide? Are you okay? Why did you run into the slide? You're not hurt, right? Oh. You're so cute. You're so sweet. How's your tongue? You haven't got any lines on it yet? Nah, don't need to go in for water yet. Oh.